In this video, we're going to be looking at an ESV Bible that is called the Alpha. It's part of a premium collection of Bibles put out by Crossway, their heirloom collection. And they've come up with names for each of the sizes of the Bibles in this collection. And so this is actually going to be the smallest Bible in this collection. And I'm going to compare this Bible with a few other Bibles, including another Bible from the heirloom collection. And what you'll see with these Bibles is everything about them is really going to be at a high standard. So even the packaging here, they've really beautifully designed these boxes. So you have the name of the Bible, you have an insignia, you have the information here on the side as well. And you'll see here we are looking at a cover that is in calfskin mahogany color. And the back tells you a little bit about the Bible. And when you receive this Bible in this collection, you will also get a pledge card, which is just talking about the pledge they have of the craftsmanship of this, and that it's going to last. And if you experience any defect, they will replace it with a Bible of equal or greater value. So that's their pledge as the publisher. And it also has a nice wrapping to protect the Bible too, with a stamped sticker. And I'm noticing, as a lot of people have pointed out, with their more recent Bibles, they've kind of gone back on their design. With the ESV, that includes this circle around the ESV. And on the box too, you see that there. It's a little hard to see in this lighting, but I think you can see it there and on the side. So really nice branding, really beautiful. And this Alpha, as they call it, is a smaller size Bible. So the dimensions of this one are a little over 7.5 on the cover here. 7.5 inches by maybe 5 3/8 inches wide, and a little over 1.25 inches thick. That's roughly the dimensions of this with the cover. The spine has raised hubs and beautiful stamping there in gold. There are gold page edges, 3 double-sided ribbons, so there's a sheen on both sides of these ribbons. They match the brown color scheme, and again, this is mahogany is what they're calling this. And under the gold page edges, you also have a red undergilt there. So very nice. And then you do see they have the gilt line on the perimeter of the text block there. And so, very similar to what you're seeing in a lot of premium Bibles now. And in my opinion, I really like these calfskin ones that Crossway is putting out. I think it has certainly a very flexible feel to it, very supple, but I would say quite a good quality to it. And that's something you're going to notice as you handle more Bibles that are different types of leather. There's just different levels of leather, even in the premium market. So this is not made in China. As we get in here, we'll see where it's printed and bound, but that also is, I think, a leather liner in there. So really good materials. You have cardstock at the beginning and presentation page. And that is on, I think, a light cardstock, as well as family records pages. The title page to the Bible, and another title page that has the publisher information. And then as you look here at the copyright page, this is where you're seeing it is printed in the Netherlands. Now, it doesn't say specifically that it's bound there, but the printing of this is the Netherlands. And a lot of Bibles, a lot of you know this, are printed in China now. So I prefer Bibles that are printed in the Netherlands when it comes to premium Bibles. I like the Bibles coming from that part of the world, and I also like the quality of the paper that I'm seeing in the Netherlands printed Bibles. China prints can be very nice as well. I also really like some of the Korean prints that are out there. But anyway, this is going to be printed in the Netherlands. It looks like the first printing of 2025. They have other cover options coming out in this particular edition. It's the Alpha Personal Size Edition. And you have a contents page here. Books of the Bible, preface to the English Standard Version. The paper, as I said, it's really good paper. Very smooth feel to this paper. And people love the English Standard Version formatting, and I can see why. As you look at this here, everything is just printed in a way that just is so pleasing to the eye. So you see here the double column paragraph formatting. The verses are in a bit of a bolder print, so you can spot the verses. This is actually on the back of the card. I forgot to mention. It does give you information about the Bible, and you can see here that it says it's an 8-point lexicon font, and it's full grain leather is another thing that it says, and it's 28 GSM paper, smyth-sewn, edge-lined, all of that. But I wanted to highlight this is an 8-point font, and on the bottom of the page it looks like you have the full set of translator notes. Some ESV Bibles have more of a condensed set of translator notes, but looking at this here, it looks like the full set of translator notes. It's line matched, has good line spacing. The ghosting in this, it's 28 GSM, and for 28 GSM, it actually doesn't have bad ghosting. Again, this is very high quality paper. I think they treat this paper, do things to it to help it to be very opaque. So you're not getting a lot of show through, even though it is very light. But for a small Bible, it's nice to have that light paper. Also with the print size here, I noticed in the poetry sections, you really get quite a few words per line, which I think looks good. Now, the way they split this up, they do leave sometimes just single words on certain lines, which I like them to split it up by phrase. Now, this has to do with when you're doing a double column format in poetry, and when you try to divide them up in different ways, you can do it with phrases, but it's just a matter of the actual line of text isn't supposed to be on two separate lines. So they have to decide where to break up some of those lines of poetry. Another thing I want to note here about this printing is their premium Bibles now are starting to be in the two-tone printing. So you have red for the heading here, red for the chapter number, and black print for the Bible text. And as you go through here, we'll get to the New Testament, and you can just see really, really nicely done. This is the kind of Bible that you can just take with you anywhere, just a great size for travel. As you see the New Testament here, you have the title page, and the words of Christ in this Bible are also black print, just like the rest of the biblical text. Some Bibles have red print for the words of Christ. This has black print for the words of Christ. And the ESV, it's a really highly loved translation by many, one of the top-selling translations on the Bible market, very trusted, and retains kind of the heritage of the line of the King James translation. So there are things about this translation, while it's modern, also has a little bit of a style and a feel that sounds a bit traditional, and I think people like that. As you get through the Bible here, we'll see what's in the back. And I will note here that as we get to the book of Revelation, at the end here, it ends on page 1292. So a little less than 1,300 pages for this Bible. Has a table of weights and measures, a concordance, which is very nicely done and typical, I think, concordance that you see in the Crossway Bibles. I like the maps in these newer printings for their heirloom collection. It's a kind of a thicker Bible paper, but the look of the print on this paper, the coloring of this, just fits, I think, the look of the Bible. It's not too bright. Has really kind of an elegant old school look to it, which really fits this Bible. And I like the Crossway maps. This one, for example, where you see a depiction of Jerusalem in the time of Jesus and all different details about the city. So really nice map section, and then in the very back you have a little bit more cardstock. So concordance, maps, biblical text, 8-point font, and yet very easy to hold. And if you want it in a premium format, the Heirloom Collection, the Alpha Bible is what this is called, is really great. Perimeter stitched, I didn't mention that, and that full grain leather, I think it's just going to make this a Bible that is going to last and is going to be beautiful and very useful in so many ways. So I said I'll compare this to some different Bibles, and the first one I'll compare to is another Bible in the Heirloom Collection from Crossway, and this is a mid-size Bible. It's called the Veritas, and I have reviewed this Bible before. It's also one of their calfskin covers, but it's the Granada calfskin. So it's a good comparison here because you'll see some similarities as well as differences, and the grain pattern on them even is a little bit different. I would say this mahogany that I have here is a tighter grain pattern, and this one on the right is more pebbly. The Granada is a little bit brighter than the mahogany. But at the same time, they're both very flexible in their feel. So similar in that way. And then the formatting, now this is a bigger Bible than the Alpha. So you're going to have more space for the print. And the print on this one might be around a 10 point, 9.5, 10 point, somewhere around there. Yeah, I just verified it with this information card, and it's actually a 9.25 print size. So a little over 9 point for the Veritas. And it's going to actually, I think, be very similar paper, the two-tone printing there, but one is going to be very portable, one is going to be more of a reader. And this also has verse numbers, so you can use it in different settings for different purposes. You have even a little margin space, but overall I would say this is kind of your reader Bible or Bible to take to church if you want a little bit larger font. However, if you don't mind the 8-point font, this is a really great Bible for travel. Certainly if you're kind of going to like a place to sit down for coffee and you just have a smaller table. You just want to have something in a bag that you can take with you very easily. The Alpha is great for that. Now let's compare this size to other Bibles of maybe a similar nature in size. And a very famous one would be the Schuyler personal size Quintel, especially the original personal size Quintel size was pretty similar to this. Now, the ESV PSQs, as they're called, the personal size Quintel from Schuyler, have been enlarged a little bit, and they're a little bit more in that 8.5 by 5.5 size, I guess you could say, somewhere around there. Not quite that, but somewhere around there. Whereas, as I said, these are like 7.5 size, I think is the height, and the width is a little over 5 inches. Yeah, so with the cover here, it's almost 7 3/4. They're really similar, though, in size, these two Bibles. However, I will say the Alpha is a little bit narrower or thinner. It's not as thick. So that's kind of a plus in terms of portability. However, the PSQ, and again, now this is a CSB. They have other options available in this particular size, but I just wanted you to have a reference to see kind of how they compare. I mean, both of these are just gorgeous Bibles. I think the printing in this particular PSQ is a little bit more bold for the CSB, but the lexicon font is just highly loved and very pleasing to the eye. So honestly, either of these look great. You get a little bit more words per line on the Alpha here, which for some people is something they would prefer. But when you look at the poetry, you're going to see, as I mentioned before, that on the ESV here, you're going to have sometimes just one word hanging over at the end of a poetic line, whereas in the Schuyler Quintel and Personal Size Quintel Bibles, you're going to have all of those lines that don't fit on one line. The line of poetry that has to be divided will just be put on the next line, but they will make sure to do it with a phrase there, so you don't just have one word. So I know I'm not saying that very succinctly, but I think you get the idea. And so what you end up with is really, 6 one way, half a dozen another in terms of what you might prefer, because the lines of poetry are just very divided up here. Here you do get more words per line in the ESV, but you do have sometimes those words left over there. And I mentioned leathers are not all the same. Schuyler also has some real high-end leathers now. This is, I think, called the Tuscany calfskin, if I remember correctly. And I would say this has a really sturdy, hefty feel to it, and really high quality. This is very good. If I had to guess which is maybe a little higher quality, I would actually say this one. However, it's just a preference thing, because this is still really good quality, and this one's really flexible. And for a little Bible you're carrying around, it just feels so good in your hand with that nice flexible cover. And I noticed this one actually lays open really well. So that's one thing I will say about this particular PSQ. Right at the beginning, lays quite flat. And I do want to test here, how does this one do? And I would say maybe not quite as flat laying as this one out of the box, but already this one is, staying open quite well. And as you use it more and more, it's just going to stay open even better. The print doesn't go into the gutter very much. They did a good job making sure that the print stays on the visible surface of the page. So excellent. Another comparison I'll make, one final comparison, is what is called the Holman CSB Personal Size Bible. Just because here's another one that if you're looking for something that is very easy to carry in that smaller size, this personal size from Holman is somewhat similar. And I kind of wanted to show these mainly to show how the size of the font affects the size of the Bible. So this is now, I think, a 7.5 point font. So just a little bit less than 8-point font. Yep, 7.5 point font is what it says on the box there. And it is a little bit smaller font than what you have in the ESV, but what you get is a little bit smaller Bible. And then the PSQ, Personal Size Quintel, has a little bit larger font than the other two Bibles. The 8.5 point font, I think, is what this one is, and it's an even larger Bible, but still not that large. And again, comparing print sizes, I would actually say these two are quite similar, but to my eye, this is a little bit easier to read, if I had to be honest. For most people, though, I think this 8-point font for a Bible this size is fantastic. This one, this 7.5 point font gets a little small. I think anything under 8, starting to get a bit small, but for a lot of people, it's still certainly passable, and it is a good font. They have some other printings of this that they're coming out with, and I'll be doing more reviews of this Bible with some different cover options. But what we've been focusing on here primarily is the ESV Alpha. Again, comes in this wonderful box for the heirloom collection, and is a really nicely bound and beautifully printed Bible. So if you have any questions or comments about this Bible, feel free to put that in the comment section. I like to hear what my audience thinks, but thank you so much for taking a look at this with me from a fresh perspective.